Hello there everyone and welcome. I wanted to talk a little bit today about skirmishes. I just had a question about it on one of my my YouTube videos, and I've previously stated some stuff about them as well, my opinions about skirmishes. I think most people know that I'm not too much of a fan of skirmishes, but this I've probably chosen a quite inflammatory title just to draw you in. But I don't actually want them completely removed. I just think that in most cases they used just in the wrong way. And my sort of biggest problem with skirmishers, really, compared with line infantry, is the level of effort versus sort of the level of actual impact on the battlefield. So what I mean by that is, comparatively, line infantry has rules about, you know, you have to be in line to fire. You have all these kinds of rules: make a nice, neat line, fill gaps, so forth, and you have to train your men, and it takes a lot of effort being able to do this line, and maybe even doing double lines. While as on the skirmisher side, what are the rules really regarding them? I mean, they fire in charge, they run about in a big blob. I mean, the only sort of rule, I guess, is don't be unreasonably far from each other. But what is that? Usually they spread out over quite a far distance, and especially now, when, I mean, this goes also not just for, like, now, right now, I'm talking about Holdfast, but this also went back to when I played Napoleonic Wars as well. Now, the advantage of Napoleonic Wars was the fact that you had cavalry, and cavalry could quite easily chase those guys down. Holdfast, as of yet, doesn't have cavalry, and I don't think they're gonna have cavalry anytime soon, just given how the game sort of how I feel the game you play it and so forth. I have actually quite a hard time to see that cavalry would be implemented anytime soon. So it's really down to that, like the effort, because last time I played, which was this Sunday, we had a line battle where we were going in double lines. And I feel confident in speaking about this because it was actually our own regiment, the 77th, who was the largest skirmisher unit there. And the amount of kills they managed to sort of gather up just by being this spread out blob against the quite reasonably bigger targets of going in double lines. Even if you sort of manage to maneuver them really well and so forth, and get them behind cover, there's still a larger target, especially when you're facing a skirmish unit. And the thing is, how do you defeat a skirmish unit if you're a line infantry? You cannot charge them, because if you charge them, they fire in charge. So while one guy managed to maybe block some of your first guys, the others have moved back, reloaded, fired again, and just massacred. So unless you manage to sneak up on them, even then, they're just gonna run out of there. And you'll have to chase them, and possibly, you know, other lines come in and you're dead. So there's no proper way of taking them down, unless, of course, you have a skirmish unit as well. But that means the skirmish units go from being what they're supposed to be, as supportive units, to the main unit, especially when they're allowed to have numbers up towards 10-12 people, which I think is way too many. So it's my problem with the skirmish, it really comes down to the effort it takes to sort of be in skirmish formation or be a skirmisher. It's just basically, you know, they have the same rules as you would when you play public, while everyone else has strict rules about how to behave and be in line and don't fire at this occasion, otherwise the admin's gonna tell you off or maybe slay you and so forth. Well, they just seem, it's like inviting a group of public players just to run haywire over your line battle. And I've seen this in quite a few line battles where they have been so effective to, I mean, if one side has a better skirmisher unit, it can really dominate the battlefield and just destroy everything that comes up against them. And for some reason, throughout all the line battles I've been, when there have been skirmishers, it's always the one side that has a better, has a significantly larger and better unit than the other side, which sort of usually that side then loses quite badly, the one that has the poorer light infantry, because light infantry, they're able to avoid being shot because they're in spread out formation, and they'll just, and the increased accuracy they have, so they'll destroy any line that comes up against, unless of course the line is really huge, managed to, you know, something that sort of goes into really well planning or something. But normally speaking, skirmishers have an advantage against line infantry. They're harder to hit, and they've got higher accuracy, so they'll hit you before you hit them. So my problem with them, that's really my problem with them. But I can see there are ways in which you could use them, but I would then probably either restrict them to very small lines, and then there would be, I'm not entirely sure how we would restrict the rules, but I think the idea which I'm sort of playing with right now is the fact that they would be tied to the line infantry. So it would be determined by how many line infantrymen you have in your company or in your regiment, as it is in Holdfast. So say you have, for every 10 men, you can have one extra guy that is a skirmisher. He has to stay within earshot of the line, meaning if someone used the VoIP, he needs to be able to hear it, so that you get a rough idea how far away from the line. He can go around it as he pleases, kind of, you know, moving around, scouting a bit around the line. But if the line charges, or if it goes into melee, it's not like he can sit back somewhere in a corner, reload, fire into the charge. Then he has to join the line and, you know, help out in the charge. Same with advancing and so forth. Now you would think maybe if you deploy a skirmisher like that, obviously he's not allowed to shoot officers, even though that would be, I mean, that would be a prime thing. But I think shooting officers defeats a lot of the purpose of doing the lines, because it gets deorganized and so forth. And yeah, it's not generally a good idea, which I think most people within the community would say. So I think something like that would probably be better than to have these larger skirmish units roaming the battlefield, just inflicting massive casualty on anyone that comes near them, until, of course, cavalry is introduced. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Same with artillery. Now, artillery isn't really the same kind of problem, because I don't see artillery being allowed as much as I see skirmishers being allowed. But artillery right now is, I mean, it's, for those guys who can aim it, it's pretty darn accurate, and it has the ability to take out a lot of people. So I think until maybe you get that sort of, when you get an actual ball, which I believe I read somewhere. Now this is kind of a ranty video, so I don't have all the facts here. And it's kind of, this video is kind of to start the discussion in the comments about this, but I think they later on, the idea is that you will have artillery they can move around, and that it won't have like an explosive shot. Instead, there will be a ball that bounces, and so it won't, on a stationary line, let's say maybe if you're lucky, straight on get 2 people, or like in the flank you can get more, but going straight at it, maybe you take 2 people if you're lucky. Well, as now, I don't exactly know how many people you would lose, but maybe right now, when with the sort of explosive, you lose 4 or 5 men. And given the size of most regiments and the most sort of size, that 4 or 5 men, that's quite a lot, especially with the accuracy and, most importantly, maybe not the accuracy is more that important for the cannons, more so is the reload rate, because it does not take a long time to reload the cannon in Holdfast. And it's able to pump out those shots and could just destroy stuff. Now, I haven't really seen that because most line battles don't allow the cannons. But I think that's some of my ideas around skirmishers, and I'm a bit yeah. I wonder what you guys think about it, and what your guys' idea about it. How to if you don't think skirmishers at all is a problem, and you can go ahead and say why you don't think that, or you agree with me and you think that, you know, we need to look at sort of maybe finding a standardized pattern for rules for line battles. Right now you have these sort of short words for the FOL for fire out of line and stuff like that, but maybe sort of a more community-wide rule set that could be set for battles. Now, obviously, you can make your own rules and stuff. It's not like set in stone, but some like sort of guidelines, I think would be needed, especially for the skirmishers, because it seems a lot of time that they differ quite a lot in between what's allowed. I think really there needs to be cap on the number, which you probably you can do on the servers probably. You can cap the numbers depending on, if you know that there's going to be 100 men, then you can cap the skirmishers to a certain amount, and then you can spread them out so they don't have that major impact, because skirmishers is, of course, they're a detachment. They're not supposed to be the main fight. There's a reason why it's called line battle, because it's the lines that are battling. The skirmishers is just some extra topping, a little bit of stuff a little bit of icing on the cake to make it look a bit interesting and sort of spice it up a bit. But it shouldn't be too spicy, of course, because then you'll end up in the toilet, and you don't want to be there for a long time, especially when you're gaming. Right, I think I've gone through most of my stuff, kind of rambling on. Probably missed a few stuff, but we can hash that out in the comment sections. So I hope you think this was fine, and yes, as I always say, I hope you guys enjoy this, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye!